I will defend the situation. Before you call me a monster and an animal for defending the situation, I will say this. The cop was following the procedure.
Never said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Welcome to You Made It Political. We have a great show for you all today. A lot of craziness in the world. Obviously, there isn't a week that goes by anymore without you hearing about another insane news story somewhere in the United States of America, because that is what we are right now. Insane. Coronavirus has made us go all a little bit loopy. We're at breaking point, and we've just about lost it. This one woman in Florida did exactly that. She lost it. She snapped. She was at breaking point. Some masked Nazi was up in her face. She hit breaking point, rock bottom, totally snapped, walked up to her and coughed in her face as a statement of, you really need to mind your own business. Well, that cough ended her in jail. We're going to cover that story in just a minute. We're also going to talk about what's going on in Minnesota. Another protest / riot is occurring as we speak. The George Floyd case isn't even over yet, and Minnesota's already taking to the streets. Are you surprised? I thought they'd at least wait until the Floyd trial was over, but they're already on the streets. The National Guard has been called in. At least we called the National Guard in this time. Guess the Democrats are getting a little bit worried this time around, seeing that they have now zero control over the Black Lives Matter movement and the black community. And this is where we're going to start to see the Democrats freak out more so than last summer. And we're going to see a lot more National Guard. This isn't PR anymore, people. This is very dangerous territory the United States is now treading on. So we'll take a look at that story. But first, we're going to head over to Facebook and take a look at a lady, a 53-year-old woman in Florida who lost it, snapped, and decided to take it out on the masked Nazi and coughed on her. Well, that cough landed her 30 days in prison. Let's take a look. So, Florida woman, and before we judge her, let's just kind of dissect this and take a look at it, because I'm torn here. I'm torn between she kind of deserves a little bit of time, and you know what? This is what happens when you keep pushing people to breaking point. And that's what we all are at right now. We are all at breaking point because we've had enough. We've had enough of being suppressed. We've had enough of being held back. We've had enough of our kids being out of school. We've had enough of losing our jobs or our businesses. We've all just had enough. And people all over the country are at breaking point. And this lady is no exception. So a Florida woman has been sentenced to 30 days behind bars after pleading guilty to deliberately, okay, there's no disputing it, she deliberately coughed in a cancer patient's face at the height of the coronavirus pandemic in an interaction caught on video last year. So, you know, you kind of think about the situation and be like, I can't believe somebody would do that. In normal circumstances, yes, that is the case. And I'm not even going to sit here and say I'm not defending her, because I kind of am defending her. In normal circumstances, that would be totally inappropriate and completely uncalled for. Going up, coughing on somebody. I mean, not only is it very immature, but yeah, you're spreading your germs, your diseases, your viruses, intentionally harming somebody. So in normal circumstances, this would be a huge slap in the face, an unacceptable situation. We are not in normal circumstances, people. We are far from a normal circumstance right now. And I don't blame this lady. and a lot of other people around the country who are snapping and are completely losing it after everything that's happened during coronavirus. Because we have been kicked to the curb, we've been held back, we've been pushed down, we've been beaten up. There's no hope for America right now. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know when the insanity is going to end. The Biden administration now is in control, making things 10 times worse. So yes, we're all freaking out. We're all losing our goddamn minds. We are all at breaking point. And this lady at a supermarket, she had enough. She had enough, and I'm going to play the video for you in just a second. She had enough. This masked Nazi who apparently had cancer, which, to be honest, I can care less what she had. I don't care. I don't care what any pre-existing conditions any of you have. Mind your own damn business. I'm not going to get up in your face for wearing a mask. You're not going to get up in my face for not wearing a mask. So the masked Nazis are pushing the boundaries lately. It's no wonder that some of you guys haven't gotten knocked out yet for getting up in the faces of the wrong people, because it's going to happen. You're going to get up in the face of the wrong person, and they're going to knock you out. And I've actually seen a few videos. I played a video of that a few weeks ago. A gentleman in the UK kept running his mouth. This one guy tried to ignore him. He snapped, he turned around, and he punched the guy right in the face, dropped him on the floor. He was out cold. That's what you get. You want to keep pushing the boundary, folks. Things like this are going to happen. Whether it's right or wrong, it's going to happen. Let's head over to the video, and we'll take a look at what happened here.
I think I'll get real close to you and hop on you then. How's that?
We're showing you this woman's face because our attorneys say she knew she was being recorded and has no expectation of privacy. Here are the moments before she intentionally coughed on the woman recording the video.
Do you really need this? What do you want to do? Post it for you?
Heather Sprague said she's a brain tumor patient and a mother with 10 adopted children. She says she was waiting on an appointment Thursday near the town center and came to Pier 1 Imports to get out of the heat. That's when she ran into a woman she says was screaming, swearing, and insulting store employees over an item she wanted to return but didn't have with her. We tried to speak with store employees about the incident, but they declined to comment. In front of who Sprague says appears to be the woman's children, she then noticed Sprague recording, and then News for Jack's crime and safety expert Ken Jefferson says.
So you've seen the video. Clearly, this lady was being, and I love how they spin the story. They spun the story to make it sound like she was losing her mind over a returned item. I guarantee that's not what happened. Okay? Because you don't go from losing your mind on the cash register for an item that you couldn't return to then going up and coughing in some lady's random face. First of all, this lady here with the mask who had cancer, why is she recording this woman? Why did she feel the need to actually record the lady because of an incident that occurred over a few unreturned items? Why would this lady right here decide to get out of camera? What business is it to her that there's a lady at a cash register trying to return some items? She sees the woman clearly frustrated, clearly disgruntled. She's probably having a real shitty day for whatever reason. We all have them. The lady starts losing it on the cashier. So this lady here in the mask needs to take out a video camera and start filming? Why? So I don't believe that's what happened. The real story probably goes something like this. This lady in the mask, cancer patient or previous cancer patient, at some point she had cancer, a brain tumor, I guess. This lady here probably noticed the woman at the register not wearing a mask and decided to give her hell about it. That's what I'm guessing the real story is, because we've heard these stories. We've seen the masked Nazi stories. We've heard them. We've read them. And she decides to give this lady shit for not wearing a mask. And as we saw, the lady then walked up and said she had enough. She snapped, coughed right in her face. Now this woman gets 30 days in prison. That's now what happens. You now get 30 days in jail for manslaughter. But was she not being provoked? Was she not being antagonized? This woman here in the mask decides to take out a camera. So what that she has 10 children? I don't care that she has 10 children. I don't even care that she had cancer. If you keep doing this to people, especially in these very stressful times, expect backlash. Expect violence in return, unfortunately and sadly, because everybody's at breaking point. So this has happened many times. I'll show you another story of a woman who was drunk. The police come to her place of residence for a intoxication call, and she decides to joke around and coughs in the air near the police officers. She also gets arrested. Let's take a look.
Police were called to Cecilia Flores' home while she was allegedly drunk.
There was an intoxicated female that was trying to get in a vehicle and leave.
After that issue was resolved, officers went to leave and Flores tried to shake their hand.
Okay.
I appreciate you, sir.
I'm not shaking your hand.
Well, you ain't got to.
When he tried to explain, she interrupted him.
I don't know if you're aware, but there's this coronavirus going around. You got to be kidding me.
I got it. What's up?
The officers momentarily rendered speechless.
So do you actually have a positive diagnosis of COVID-19?
No, I haven't, sir.
Do you believe you have it? That's what you told him earlier.
No, I don't.
But after conferring with supervisors, they arrested Flores.
So she gets arrested too. She gets thrown in the slammer for pretending, for joking around, because she was insulted that the officer wouldn't shake her hand. Understandably, the officer is a bit nervous. But here's the thing, and I read some of the comments on this post. If we back up the video for a second, we will see here that the officers actually don't have their masks on. None of them have masks on. And in the comments, they were talking about the fact that if these police officers were so concerned, if they were so concerned about their health, why don't they have masks on? So they were called to a women's residence. She's clearly intoxicated. She gets offended that after the altercation is over and the police let her go, they let her be in her residence. They go to shake her hand, or she goes to shake the police officer's hand, and the cop says, I'm not going to shake your hand right now because of coronavirus. So all of a sudden he's scared, yet he's not wearing a mask. So they're not wearing masks. She then coughs, not at him, but in the air, just making a joke.
You got to be kidding.
She's clearly a few feet away from him. And this is where things are going to start to get real dangerous soon. People are going to joke about coughing, and they're going to get arrested. Because we all know the liberal Karens out there are going to take this to the max. If you even remotely joke about it, you now might go to prison for 30 days or get manslaughter charges brought up against you. So it's okay for a liberal Karen to antagonize you, to provoke you, to push you to breaking point. And when you snap and lose your mind because you've had enough, you're now going to prison. So the sickening part of this whole thing is that no one else is being held accountable. The only people that are being busted are the ones trying to prove a point here. The ones who are constantly being beat up and attacked on a daily basis. And then all of a sudden, if you snap, it's now your fault and you go to prison. Let's head over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what the American people have to say about the fact that this lady, Florida woman who coughed on case your patient, has now been sentenced to 30 days behind bars. And she's also needs to have a mental health psych evaluation. I mean, I would too. I'm almost at the point, guys, where I need a mental health psyche evaluation because I'm going to lose my mind here soon. I'm not built for this stuff. Not many people are. There's a lot of people out there who are actually loving every single minute of this lockdown. They were never social to begin with. I mean, if it were up to them, the lockdowns would never be lifted. But for the rest of us, social people in life who want to get out there and live our lives and see our parents in nursing homes and want to have kids over for their birthday parties and want to end this insanity, this is something that we're all struggling with. So I relate to her. You got to keep your cool. You do need to keep composure. But, sorry, I don't blame her for doing what she did. And I also don't blame the people out there who are going to knock the mask Nazis clear out for getting up in their face either. Because at some point, you guys are going to have it coming for you. We can only take so much. Let's head over to the keyboard warrior cam and see what the American people have to say about this woman being arrested. Was it warranted or not? There's a lot of mixed feelings on this. Jody says that was a slap in the face. Stop using the mentally unstable and bad childhood race cards. We'll have to take a look at the article in a second and see exactly what happened. But it appears that she's claiming she was at breaking point. And listen, it's a good card to play today, guys. It's a very good card to play. We're all at breaking point. We're all about to lose our mind. Matt says, excellent. These COVID-idiots need to understand that there are consequences for their idiotic actions. I would have tacked a week in Plory onto her sentence, but apparently we're too civilized to bring that form of punishment back. So Matt's clearly calling the COVID-idiot the woman who coughed on her and doesn't and thinks that she should have gotten actually a longer sentence. I've asked Dad now many times if we could do something about Florida. He just says the same thing every time I ask. Jesus, if we didn't have Florida, what would we do for entertainment? Florida in heaven is like reality on TV on Earth. Just a train wreck, but a wreck you can't stop watching. I'm not sure what's really wrong with Florida. There's a lot of people in Florida who think Florida's gone to hell. I don't see that. I don't see that. And I see Governor DeSantis doing his best with the coronavirus lockdown. I see some of the lowest death toll rates out of all the lockdown states in America right now. I mean, listen, let's be honest. According to the CDC, Florida has some of the best and lowest fatality rate out of New York State, California, Texas. New York and California, we know, have been completely wide open. Florida actually has half the death toll as Florida and New York State and California. And New York State and California have been completely locked down. So Florida's actually done really well. They've gotten the most vaccinations, shots in the elderly arms. Governor DeSantis does an amazing job. He's trying to ban the vaccine passport. He's trying to keep freedom going in Florida. It's one of the only states left that's a free state in the country. No wonder most conservatives are moving to Florida. So it does surprise me when you see people like this harping on Florida. I don't get it. I really don't understand it. But I think we're going to see Florida turn even more conservative now that half the country is moving down there. Douglas says, I simply don't understand people like this. I mean, the person had cancer. What is she trying to do? Kill them? Listen, there is no excuse for what she did. Okay, we know coronavirus is a serious issue. A lot of people are scared of it. But again, the lady in the mask who filmed this video, what is she doing? Why does she need to do that? If you have cancer and you see somebody without a mask, stay away from them. Don't go near them. It's very simple. You don't need to get out your camera and antagonize her or him. You don't need to get up in their face. You don't need to try to prove a point. There's just no reason for it. So if you're scared, stay home. Wear your mask. Leave the maskless alone. And don't get out your camera and start filming stuff. Because that's just going to antagonize these people. That's just going to make them even more pissed off. And you're going to have even a bigger issue when somebody gets up in your face and, God forbid, starts a fight. So over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam, see what other people have to say about this insanity. Cynthia says, classic Karen move. She was trying to return something she didn't have with her. How is that possible? Must have heard that wrong. Rude and angry people are a waste of space and oxygen. So sorry that this happened to you, lady. No one deserves that kind of treatment. I hope you're okay. Clearly, a lot of people think that this lady was wrong. It could tread on the border of manslaughter. But I don't know, guys. I just think that you could think I'm an animal or a monster, but I think if you keep pushing these people, a lot worse is going to happen. Do you deserve it? No, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen at some point. And I think that the harder that we push those who are already so stressed out to breaking point, the more of these incidences we're going to see. Diane says, white woman coughs on someone and she gets 30 days. 2 black teen girls actually drag a man to his gruesome death and not 1 day in jail. And this is the most frustrating part about this whole thing. And I'm going to show you some clips or some footage of what's going on in Minnesota right now. White policemen all over the country are getting fired for shooting criminals because they're fleeing arrest. And I'm not talking about the George Floyd incident. That was extreme compared to what other cases are going on. You have people all over the country, criminals, acting up, playing the race card to get out of jail. We saw it in the Black Lives Matter movement last summer. Kamala Harris bailed criminals out of jail for burning, looting, stealing, rioting. Kamala Harris starts a GoFundMe account and bails them all out of jail, or tries to bail a lot of them out of jail. So a lot of these people, criminals, not protesters, straight up criminals, are acting up throughout the country. And they're getting bailed out. And they're not going to jail because they played the race card. We have illegal immigrants storming the border every single day by the tens of thousands. They're not getting thrown out of the country. They're being housed in hotels. So there's a lot of illegal activities going on throughout the United States right now. And they're all getting off if they're a minority or if they're an illegal immigrant. So the race card seems to get you out of jail free. So I wonder if this lady was black. Let's be honest here, because black people seem to be getting away with a lot lately. Minorities seem to be getting away with a lot lately because they're dangling that race card. It's like we're too afraid to actually put any minority group in jail anymore because of what the liberal media is going to do to us. So we're all on edge. We're scared to death of making the wrong decision, making the wrong move. But you have this lady here who coughs on somebody, which was not right. She coughs on somebody, and she now gets 30 days behind bars. She was minding her own business. A masked Nazi took out a camera, filmed her at the cash register, losing her mind on the cashier, having a bad day. She decides to get up in the masked Nazi's face and coughs on her. And she gets 30 days behind bars. So it's the hypocrisy. It's the double sword or the double standards that we're so furious about. And that's the point that we're trying to make here. It's that you go to jail for things like this, but you don't go to jail for stuff like this. Protesters clash with police, and this just happened last night. We have massive protests now going on in Minnesota again. And we knew this was coming. We knew the protests were coming. We knew that either way, whether Floyd or whether Chauvin completely gets off or for whatever charge he actually gets convicted of, we know there's going to be protests in Minnesota. But they've started already. And by protests, I don't really mean protests. I mean straight up riots. I mean, Black Lives Matter, leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement, they've come out and straight up said, if Chauvin gets off, we're burning the city down. They've admitted it. They've come out and said it. But the trial's not even over yet, and we have more incidences. It's almost like BLM or the black community are looking for problems. They're sitting the sidelines and they're just waiting for their moment to attack again. They're on edge, they're on standby, and they got a reason last night. So protesters clashed with police in front of the Brooklyn City Police Department in Minnesota following an officer-involved shooting that left a 20-year-old man dead on Sunday. Okay, so another police shooting Sunday. This was yesterday, leaving a 20-year-old man dead. Let's take a look at the article and see what happened here. Because every time I read one of these stories, I'm thinking, okay, what's the first thing that comes to mind when we hear about a cop killing a black man? And notice how in the headlines, it says nothing about a black man. Nothing about a black man. But I have to assume because Black Lives Matter is out there rioting again, or the black community is rioting, okay? I mean, this is what's going on. They're destroying cop cars, tear gas everywhere. The National Guard has actually been called in this time. That, to me, tells me for the first time ever, the Democrats are scared. The Democrats don't have control this time. They had control last time, which is why they never got worried. They controlled. We all know the Democrats control Black Lives Matter organization. The Democrats in the past have told them when to start protesting and when to stop protesting. Like clockwork, Black Lives Matter listened to the Democratic Party. Now, what we're seeing are riots, protests, not orchestrated by the left. And this is a very scary and real thing that all of us in America are going to have to face and come to terms with. Because at least last summer, they were all under the control of Kamala Harris, AOC, Pelosi, Schumer, CNN. It was all orchestrated. That's why we all thought the whole thing was a total load of shit. Fake news. But it was very well under control. It's not under control now. And we're seeing this in Minnesota. This time, when the Democrats tell BLM to stop, they're not going to stop. Hence the reason we now, for the first time, see the National Guard in Minnesota. So we see the National Guard there. They're here. You see them there in the background. Protesters are clashing with police. The National Guard's been called in because of a cop killing last night. So what exactly happened? Let's try to get to the bottom of this here. So an officer-involved shooting sparks unrest in Minneapolis or Minnesota once again. So yesterday, Minneapolis erupted in looting and riots. So I love how, I guarantee if you go on to CNN site, they're going to call this peaceful. They're going to call it protests. They won't call it peaceful, but these are going to be considered protests. Okay? Let me set the record straight for you guys right now. This is not a protest. These are riots once again. Protests are holding hands, singing Kumbaya. Very much like what we saw back in the 1960s with Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and everybody else who fought for social justice in a peaceful way. They're not being peaceful today. I don't care what you say. There's nothing peaceful about this, and we're not even going to sugarcoat it. They've erupted in looting and riots late Sunday after an officer fatally shot a man during a traffic stop just 10 miles from where Derek Chauvin had George Floyd pinned to the pavement last May. So same area. The National Guard was activated to quell what devolved into violent demonstrations over the fatal officer-involved shooting of 20-year-old Dante Wright earlier Sunday in the city of Brooklyn Center. So it was so bad that a citywide curfew was issued until 6 a.m. this morning. About 500 people had gathered overnight outside of a police precinct in the city and clashed with officers. So what exactly happened? What happened here? Let's take a look. In a statement, Brooklyn Center Police said that officers had stopped an individual shortly before 2 p.m. on Sunday. After determining the driver had an outstanding warrant, police tried to arrest him, but the driver re-entered the vehicle and drove away. An officer fired at the vehicle, striking the driver. Police said the vehicle traveled several blocks before crashing into another vehicle. So this young man, Dante, 20 years old, fled or resisted arrest, got back into his car, took off. So right there, you're in serious trouble. Right there, there's grounds to try to detain you using whatever force necessary, especially when you smash your vehicle into another car. A female passenger sustained non-life-threatening injuries in the other car. So they shot at the driver. The driver was killed, trying to contain the situation. This is a very serious situation here. And it warrants the actions the police took. The problem we now face is that every single time a white cop kills a black person, we are now going to be held hostage by Black Lives Matter. Nothing was done wrong here. Nothing. And we continue to see it time and time again. We all know the moral of the story. Don't resist arrest. When are we going to stand up and say, enough's enough? You break the law, you're going to jail, or you're going to get shot. If you resist arrest, you will be shot. And at some point, we're going to have to say, you know what? Enough. Start following the law again. Okay? We will deal with whether the police acted within their rights or not. That is not for the whole city to erupt in violence every single time there's an incident. Otherwise, we're going to have riots and looting and burning of cities every single weekend. Because we know crime happens every single weekend. We're going to see it on an ongoing basis. This is never going to come to an end. I don't care how much police reform you try to put into the community, or how much money we spend on police reform, or how many laws we change as far as how police handle situations. Crime's going to happen. People are going to resist arrest, whether it's white or black. And again, the race doesn't matter here, because we're only covering the black situations. How many white men resisted arrest and got fatally shot? Several. Hundreds. Over time, thousands. It happens all the time. But the media only wants to focus on white cops killing black people. And every single time it happens, we now have more riots, more looting, more stealing. So we're going to have to put our foot down on this madness at some point and say, you know what? Back to law and order. I'm sorry. Okay? You fled and you resisted arrest. You drove your vehicle into another car. You smashed your vehicle into a car, ultimately risking other people's lives. So this Dante kid, 20 years old, didn't give a shit about anybody else he put in harm's way. Didn't care. High-speed chase, ultimately crashed his car into another vehicle. Cops tried to detain him during the chase, shot at the car, struck the driver. That's what they're supposed to do to mitigate damage or potentially life-threatening issues to everyone else around the scene when some criminal decides to go rogue. So totally warranted here. Completely warranted. Why are we rioting? Why are there protests in the street? Why is there anarchy in the streets? Over what? What's their excuse now? So it's happening way too much, and we need our law enforcement agencies, or our cities at least, we need to start backing these people up, to back up our officers. We need to start encouraging them to do their best to try not to use fatal force, but at the same time, when things get a bit out of control, whether it's their life in danger or civilians' lives in danger, the course of action is to shoot to kill. And we need to tell the Black Lives Matter organization, no, you don't have the right to riot every single time you don't get your damn way. Because I'm telling you right now, if they keep this up, it's only a matter of time before other civilians get involved. We're not going to wait for the police to take matters into their, and to control the situation. You better believe the Proud Boys will start showing up again if they haven't already. They'll end up in Minneapolis. I mean, you have these business owners in Minneapolis right now who are scared to death of losing everything all over again. And already we see 500 people take to the streets and start destroying stuff because one of their boys was fatally shot, justifiably. Absolutely justifiably. I mean, there's no disputing it in this case at all. Every time a white cop kills a black person, you cannot raid the streets. You cannot riot. It's gonna happen. Because what you're telling me is every single time somebody commits a crime, you guys are going to commit crimes in retaliation. That's not okay either. So to be honest, we should start rounding up every single person in the paddy wagon who joined the riot. Get rid of them. Get them off the street. Put them in jail. It's the only way we're going to restore law and order, because this is completely unacceptable now. And I can't be the only one who's furious with this situation. Let's over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what the American people have to say about another rioting, another BLM organization that turned rogue, protests that's gone riots in the streets of Minneapolis over an incident where a 20-year-old black man was shot by a white cop because the black man resisted arrest once again. Same story over and over. Yet rioting, looting, and stealing is okay. John says, why are you calling them protesters when they are rioters? They're not standing there with signs and peacefully protesting. They are violent and attacking the police. It's obvious in these pictures, clearly. And I'm glad Fox News is putting these pictures out. Look, you better believe CNN's going to have a much different version of this story. And shame on CNN for constantly defending these criminals. And that's exactly what I'm calling them, criminals. It doesn't matter what Black Lives Matter started as. It's a rogue criminal organization that throws their toys out of the car every single time a crime occurs against one of their own people. And that's not how life works. That's not how society is supposed to work. You don't see other minority groups threatening civilians every time an Asian is killed, every time an Indian is killed, every time a Mexican is killed. You don't see this. Why are we allowing this right now? Because it's getting out of control. I mean, how many people are going to have to die? How many innocent bystanders are going to have to die before we start to change our tune and start locking everybody up who gets involved in crime? This is not acceptable. I hope the National Guard comes in now, wipes them out by rounding them all up, throwing them in prison, which is where they all belong. And it's not racist of me to say this. This is just maintaining law and order. Donald Trump tried to do it. He was called a racist for some weird freaking stupid reason because he wanted to maintain law and order. Well, look at what we have in charge now. The Biden administration, you don't have a clue what they're doing. America's a mess. It's out of control. We have more issues today than we've ever had in any other presidency in history, or at least modern day history. In just 4 or 5 months, this country has gone to absolute shit because the Biden administration does not know how to get a handle. And it doesn't help when they allow these types of incidences to occur every single time the black community doesn't get their way. If criminals stopped resisting arrest, they would stop getting shot. That simple. Floyd also resisted arrest. He was then handcuffed and put in the back of a police car originally. He then claimed he couldn't breathe in the police car. He was then taken out of the police car. They had to lay him down and restrain him. Because remember, his legs were not tied. So yes, you can get up and run, even if you have handcuffs on your hands. You still can get up and flee. So Chauvin had to detain him somehow. Did he need to keep his knee on the neck the whole time? Probably not. When Floyd started further complaining that he couldn't breathe, he should probably have received medical attention much sooner. Yes. But Floyd resisted arrest in the first place. Floyd asked to get out of the cop car in the first place. They don't tell you this side of the story. They only tell you the side of white cop killed black man. Oh my God. This isn't random, people. These aren't executionary style murders. These are people, forget the color, resisting arrest. If you resist arrest, they're going to come after you. And if you put other people's lives in danger while resisting arrest, you're going to get shot. It's that simple. I don't have to be an attorney. I don't have to be a criminal lawyer to know how it works. As an American citizen, I get how it works. If I resist arrest, they're going to come after me. And if I attack them in any way, they have the right to shoot me. So when a cop pulls me over, I'm not going to flee because I'd like to actually go home to my family. Leanne says, I thought the violence was going to end when Trump left office. Wasn't it all his fault? Guess we now say Biden's fault. Look at what Biden has created. Fair is fair. This is Biden's fault. This is absolutely 100% the left's fault. And any of you who have voted for him, I hope you're sitting there thinking, shit, I never thought voting for this guy would get this country into so much trouble. Because it has. From overspending on stimulus to allowing the country to engage in such violence on a very frequent basis is dangerous. To allow one man, Fauci, to keep the entire country locked down. To allow Democratic governor states to act like draconian dictators. Enough is enough. And at some point, we're going to see the other half of the country start to fight back. Adam says, I bet he wasn't a criminal either. I bet he didn't resist arrest. And I bet he didn't put the police officers' lives in danger. Hashtag, this is getting stupid. Obviously, Adam's being sarcastic. And he was a criminal. He had an outstanding warrant. He did arrest. And he did put the officers' lives in danger. And he also put the other woman in danger by smashing his vehicle during the police chase into hers. They decided to open fire and try to slow the car down, and the bullet struck the driver. All because he fled. Michael says, another example of a suspect not following directions from the police and getting shot. This guy had a warrant and did not comply, so they smashed up police cars and started a riot. Democrats and liberals will vilify the police once again. Not if we can help it this time. Not if we can help it this time. We have had enough, guys. We are going to start to retaliate. And it is up to conservatives to make a comeback now. It's up to us to not sit the sidelines anymore. We need to get out there now. We need to take to the streets. We need to see conservative organizations step up and counter this bullshit. It's time. Because we cannot, if we don't do anything, if we just sit the sidelines and do nothing, we're going to lose this war. And it's going to bring down America at the same time. So I don't think it's acceptable that we just sit here and do nothing anymore. Violence is not the answer, no. But what are you going to do when you got a certain percentage of the country constantly committing violent acts to get their way? How do you stop violence without being violent? And that's why we're losing this situation. The cops are being vilified. The Democrats and the left have vilified the cops. So their hands are tied. They can't defend themselves anymore without getting raked through the coals and potentially losing their job. Yes, there's a lot of incidences where the cops have overstepped their boundaries and they deserve to be fired. But those are far and few in between. We only keep looking at the incidences where they may have screwed up and deserve to get fired, but then we take that incident and we brand every good cop in that capacity, which is not fair. So the cops aren't able to do anything. Democratic governors, mayors, they're certainly not doing anything because they're on the side of Black Lives Matter. They're on the side of violence. Democrats actually stand for violence today. I'm not over exaggerating. I'm not trying to play the blame game or point the finger. It's just fact. It's not an opinion anymore. Democrats stand for violence because they allow these incidences to go on every single day. They allow, whether it's the Black community, Black Lives Matter organization, they allow these riots to happen. And for the first time ever, have we seen the National Guard finally get called in to a Democratic-run city. So even the Democrats are getting nervous. Even they are starting to freak out right now because they have no control over BLM anymore. And that's when you're going to start to finally see a shift in, wait a second, this has gone too far now. Maybe the next time the Proud Boys do show up, we'll let them do their thing. Because somebody's got to. Somebody's got to back the law enforcement up at some point. So, it's a very dangerous situation that we find ourselves in. This killing of the 20-year-old was completely warranted. We don't need to bring race into it every single time. Look at the facts and decide whether the cop justifiably shot the suspect. Leave color out of it and just look at the facts. And from what I've read and what I've seen, absolutely. He did resist. He got in his cop car. He fled. He put other lives in danger. Dwayne says he should have complied with the officer's orders. He had warrants out for his arrest, and it's just that simple. He chose his own fate. Don't blame the officers. 100% agree. Stop blaming the officers. Jennifer says, Dante Wright is just 20 years old and has been arrested 6 times, not including the active warrant. He was arrested for violent crimes. The same people rioting would be safer with him off the streets. This is lunacy. Let it go, people. He was a criminal, 6 arrests. Who cares what color he was? If he was white, nobody would be caring right now. We wouldn't be out in the streets. This would even be a story if this 20-year-old were white. And I'm sure in the last week, a 20-year-old, a white man, I'm sure resisted arrest somewhere in the country and was shot and killed. And it's easy to find out the statistics. And that's something I actually might do, is look at how many white kids have been killed this year from resisting arrest. And how many times has the media actually covered it? It's getting ridiculous now. It's to the point now, I don't care anymore. I straight up do not care. I will run my mouth all day long telling the Black community, telling BLM what bullshit this whole thing is. It's not because I'm a racist. It's because I'm sick of the violence. I'm sick of the fact that we can't even maintain law and order in this country anymore without being held hostage by these domestic terrorist organizations. It's a joke now. And somebody's got to say something because our officials aren't saying anything. Republican conservative government officials, they're not saying anything. They're just letting it go. So who's gonna do anything about this? Our law enforcement can't do anything about it. They're scared to death. They're fleeing the department in droves because they're sick of this nonsense. Who the hell wants to even join a law enforcement agency today? When every single time they decide whether or not to pull the trigger to save their life, they're going to get murdered for it, figuratively speaking. Potentially, literally. Because you hesitate for a split second. Because you're now thinking, am I going to end up in the media? Am I going to end up fired? You get shot and killed. That cop now doesn't go home to his family. Police are taught to make split-second decisions. They are taught to shoot, to kill, in defense of their own lives. Because they'd like to go home to their family. They are taught to shoot to kill when a fleeing criminal is putting other people's lives in danger. So what would have happened if that Dante took out 5 or 10 other people? What if he ran other people over fleeing the scene during this car chase and killed a bunch of people? Would he then still be considered a martyr according to the black community? Or would they maybe said, damn, he probably shouldn't have fled. He killed all those people. He was shot justifiably. Is that what it's going to take to justify a cop shooting at a suspect, a fleeing suspect? Do we have to let it get that far to say, okay, you're right, the cop was right? Because if we do, a lot more people are going to die during these incidences. If we keep letting everybody flee and cause maximum damage before we decide to pull the trigger, we're going to see a lot worse situation than just a single suspect get shot and killed. Andrew says, here we go again. When will people wake up to the BS and see that this isn't about police brutality? It's about them being able to loot, riot, and destroy things whenever they see fit. Jessica says, what do these people expect? You attack the police, throw bricks through their windows, all while dancing on top of their vehicles and flipping them off. Are people really this stupid that they believe they are invincible from the law and are above it? All choices have consequences. She's absolutely right. And take a look at these pictures here. This is ridiculous. People smashing windows up on cop cars, and we have the audacity. We have the audacity to think that this is okay. This is what's happening here in Minneapolis right now. And the policemen are just sitting there watching these. Why isn't this kid dragged to the ground, beaten down over what's going on right now? Why is he able to stand on this cop car dancing in the cop's face? Why are these policemen supposed to just sit there and take it? Taunting these National Guards. This isn't justifiable. The cop shooting the 20-year-old was justifiable in this case, and I doubt anything will happen. So what you're telling me is every single time a white cop justifiably kills any black person, we now get riots and retaliation? I don't think so. This is now okay? This isn't cute anymore, guys. This is total bullshit that this happens, that we allow this to happen. And that's what's happening. We are allowing this to happen. We are allowing Black Lives Matter, whatever organization you want to call it, we are allowing them to get away with rioting, looting, and stealing every single time there's a killing. Justifiable or not, we're allowing it. And soon, the residents of these cities are going to have enough, and they're going to start fighting back themselves. They're going to take matters into their own hands because the police clearly aren't getting the job done. And rightly so. They're scared. They're scared to death. So as we know, the George Floyd's trial's not over yet, and already we see riots, protests, whatever you want to call them, destruction in the streets again. What's going to happen when the trial's over? I mean, we're already seeing all this mass destruction, and it's only just going to get worse. So, fingers crossed, guys. It's going to get a lot worse throughout the next few weeks as the trial comes to an end. Already we see incidences again of Black Lives Matter taking to the streets, rioting, burning down cities. It's going to get a lot worse. So all we can do is pray for the residents of these cities because they don't deserve it. Thank you guys so much for joining me today here at You Made It Political. We're live every single morning at 10 o'clock where we call out the hypocrisy of the left and keep the sneaky liberals in check. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show. Or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our show or want to know more, check out YouMadeItPolitical.com.